All right, guys. Good morning. Hope everybody's doing really well. Hope we can deliver a little bit of value to you guys today. And so I wanted to talk about something, and then I've taken away the unmute privilege temporarily on here just because I find myself constantly muting people with background noise. It's not that I don't want to hear what you have to say. So please head over to chat if you have something to say, and then after I'm over, after I am done rattling off info, I'll try to open it up for anybody that has any questions as much as possible, and we'll get going. So wanted to talk about something with people. Wanted to kind of set this tone for, how big do people want to get in the industry. I find that there is a very mixed bag of emotions with what people's goal is. What are they? Who do they want to be? Do they want to be the biggest insurance agency or FMO or marketing or independent agent in the country, or do they want to be do they have an income goal of 100,000 annually, 200,000, 500,000, a million? What does that look like? How many people do they want to have work for them? All these different things. And I was thinking about it, and I was writing down, just a mountain of things that we have to do right now. So it's just like little tasks, right? Like Secretary of State filings for each entity. We have commission and expense accounting pretty much daily. Writing checks, is logging them, all that correct stuff. Downline agent counseling, LOA training, AHIP, FFM, carrier certifications, AML, building out leaderboards, CRM management, website development, graphics for business cards, email signatures, banners, wall art, notebooks, pens, sprinter van, downline agent support, in the form of graphic design, help and that sort of thing. Medicare Con, behind the agency, changing out commercials, refilming and editing commercials, content, product selection, bonus, and compensation structure, which is constantly kind of changing depending on where we're aiming things, payroll processing, hiring, employee counseling, licensing, contracting. Contracting is a full-time job. And I was just like that's like rattled off in like 2 minutes of just all these different things that we, do all the time that just get in the way of what is one thing I didn't say? Sell, right? Because there's just so much BS, right, that you have to do. And the bigger you get, the more you have to do. But what I find is the hardest working people in the business are the ones that refuse to hire anybody because they're doing everything themselves. They're doing, to some degree, a little bit of all of that themselves, right? And so I've talked to people recently. I see these things, where people will say, I'm not going to do face-to-face sales anymore. I'm only going to do telesales, or I'm going to, I don't want to hire anybody. The very, very naive young statements that I feel like I don't want to be that big. I just want to be, me, a great independent agent. Okay, so you want to be the hardest working person with the most crap to do and nobody to help you in the business. The least efficient process is the independent agent with no help. And I'm not telling people not to do that, but I think that they're talking themselves into thinking, I don't want to have to manage people, as if managing people is harder than doing all of this crap yourself. It's not. Now managing people has its own thing, and a couple of things I was talking about on there are employee counseling and stuff like that. But at least a couple of people, like I've found for us, Mallory does all these Secretary of State filing and licensing for me. She's answering all the inbound calls over here, reaching out to people, filling seminars for us, doing follow-up calls with a lot of these people. Just tons of stuff she's doing. Kelly's doing all my contracting, all of it, which for us is a huge thing now because we contract downline agents as well. Very, very time consuming things. All the carriers have stupid different requirements. I pay this one guy to do all my AHIP and stuff. I'm just kidding. I don't do that. That's a joke. But AHIP, FFM, carrier search, those are time consuming. I have to get every single person in here, even all my admin people for the most part, other than 2 right now, are licensed. So even they have to do certifications and all this stuff. So Jeff is probably one of the busiest guys in the office because he's the graphic design and web design guy. Steven's very busy. Um, I just find we're at about 20 employees now, and I find that every time I hire one, there's never like, oh, at first it's like, what are they going to do when I hire them? I have a couple of things that I do. Then I get them, and I have way more for them to do. I didn't even realize how inefficient that side of my business was until I had them. And then it's like, oh, I could use two more of those people. So it's just crazy. But and a lot of that excels growth. I also have this mindset that if you're not growing, you're shrinking. So a lot of people are like, I just want to maintain $100,000 a year renewal. It's very difficult to do because if you're not aggressively trying to grow, you'll actually shrink your income. That's just, capitalism just doesn't allow for you to sit on $100,000 residually and not earn, new business. And it doesn't allow for it. And when you're trying to earn new business, you're having to get out there to earn, you basically have to try to earn more than you need because it's always going to be a battle to scrap for more business, right? And in that process, you're going to grow. And if you're like, I just want to retain, well, your book will die eventually. So you can't just retain business. I mean, unless you're okay with it dwindling away slowly over time, which is fine too. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of talk this out in my head. There's so much stuff to do. So you have to figure out how big do you want to be? What's your trajectory look like, your goal, and kind of lay out all the different things you do and figure out at what point in that process is it worth having somebody else helping you start to help you with this stuff. Because I have found that hiring is the hardest the first couple of people you do. And then after that, it gets pretty easy because then you got to start using word of mouth from the people you've already hired. And somebody's going to disagree with me on this, but I'll go ahead and throw it out there. Virtual assistants, not my thing. I don't like it. I like people. I like to see them. I like to know what they're doing. I can, because I can be sitting in my office. Like I'm sitting in my office and I'm like, oh, I need somebody to do this. And I can go, Kelly, Mallory, Jeff. Yesterday, 3 people were yelling Jeff's name at the same time in the office. He didn't know where to go. But there's a lot of just being able to do that quickly and pivot quickly and navigate quickly what needs to be done versus calling up a VA and getting that on her schedule. Plus, she's got 14 different clients, so you're going to fit in there somewhere. I'm not about that life. When I want something done, I just want it done. I want to know that it's being taken care of and that it's the top priority for someone. So I'd rather pay more for somebody and do that. So getting back to that point too about this telesales concept, I see this getting talked about a lot. Wow, wouldn't we all like to sit and answer phone calls and just write the easiest applications in the world? But that's not necessarily what telesales is. When people say, I want to do telesales, I'm going to do telesales. I'm done with this face-to-face stuff. I'm doing telesales. Okay, so you should understand that what this means is that you're going to have a higher cost to acquire a client significantly. That's just the way it works because you can devote time and energy or money, and it's always going to be some combination thereof. Telesales is going to require probably less energy, and it's going to require a thicker skin because you're getting rejected more often. You're also having to burn through more leads to find the person. It's so easy to hang up on somebody. It's not as easy to close the door in somebody's face when you said you'd have an appointment with them. So when you're thinking about these things, this is just things that are fresh on my mind. I had somebody that's in the group right now that sent me something about somebody that said, yeah, I'm doing telesales only now. I'm only writing telesales. And they're basically writing zero business almost right now, very little business. And it's hard to pivot. And if you get to the point where you got more business than you need or want, and you're not hiring or scaling at that rate, then sure, you could probably convert. And when you're a desired, advisor, you can do that. And you can write some business over the phone. And we write a lot of business over the phone. So there's not a knock on doing business over the phone. It's just easier said than done to say, I'm going complete telesales. It's much easier to drop leads, go out and actually get people to respond to you face to face, network. And most of you are beautiful people. Look at you. You're all, so handsome and beautiful and pretty. So you're going to do better, getting in front of people, right? So anyways, just some things that I was thinking about. the all the millions of things. I'd like for most people to write down in a year's time and try to really soul search for all the things that they have to do annually, and then maybe write it down. What am I doing daily? What am I doing weekly? What am I doing monthly? What am I doing quarterly? What am I doing annually? Down to paying taxes, down to having meetings with accountants, down to doing my own taxes, to daily QuickBooks reporting, to Secretary of State business filings to keep your business in good standing, to all of that stuff, licensing, renewing licensing, doing my CE courses, doing my AHIP, doing my all this stuff that you do. Just write it down. And you don't have to do it right now necessarily, because it's a lot and you're gonna have to rack your brain about it. And then find out, how in the world do you fit income producing activities into that? And whether you're building a team or you're selling directly yourself, which is what most people should be doing probably at this point. If you're selling directly yourself, how many hours a day are you spending talking to people and having those conversations? If you're building a team, how many hours a day are you spending talking to potential agents and training them and pouring into them to where they feel confident, doing it? Now, if you're really on the team building side, unless it's some sort of LOA shop, it's not like you can talk to those people every day, because you got to build a quantity of people, because very few people succeed in what we do. We went to this 8% Nation Wealth Conference, right? And they say 8% of insurance agents succeed. I call BS. I don't think 8% of insurance agents succeed. I think it's less than that. I think their definition of success is how many people stay in the business over a longer period of time. But how many of those people work for somebody else? How many of those people have a job where they have a W-2 and a salary? They have a salary plus commission, or a salary, whatever, and they're an insurance agent and they stay in the business 5 or 6 years. Now they're a success, but they're not you guys. If you're in this room, you're likely flipping the bill for all your own stuff, or for the majority of it. You're out grinding. Whether you succeed or fail is completely on you. It's not on anybody else. So the people that succeed in that are less than 8%, because most people don't have the spirit to persevere to the point where people start to reach out to them and it gets a little bit easier. And it's never super easy, but it gets a little bit easier when you've talked to enough people where eventually people are reaching out to you, or you've put a whole bunch of advertising out there and enough people reaching out to you, whatever that looks like. So I would tell you guys, write all that down, write down everything you're doing, figure out when the income producing activities fit into there. And then just understand that no matter how much, and this is the flip side of what I'm trying to say here, so many of you get wrapped around all this crap that I've talked about: Secretary of State filings, commission processing, accounting for your commission. I have people that spend more time trying to count their commission statements to make sure they're getting paid accurately than going out and getting new business. You know how much time I spend verifying whether I'm getting paid correctly? 0. I just freaking trust. Maybe I'm getting screwed somewhere, but we're pretty successful. And I spend more time getting new business and servicing current clients and working on retention than any of that crap. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to spend my time out there counting and pinching my pennies. It just seems like a waste of time. CRM management, leaderboards, all these different things. Thankfully, we build a team around us to start to do more and more of this stuff. But so many people are trying to replicate everything that we've done with 1 or 2 people. There's people that are influencers in the industry that are friends of mine that have a staff of 2 or 3 that are trying to do everything that we're doing with 20 people. And I'm like, your wife's going to leave you, buddy. Like, stop. Focus on what's going to make you more money now, so that you can hire people to start to hire out these inefficiencies. If you want to do that, if you want to grow in that way, you don't have to do everything somebody else is doing, with a third or a fourth or a fifth or a sixth or a 10th or a 100th of the staff that some of these people have. If you're recruiting and you're trying to do the same thing that Premier or AmeriLife is doing, you can't. There's going to have to be something different that you do. You have to be more selective. You have to do something like that. If you're selling, well, then focus on selling 90% of your day. And this other stuff, if it falls behind, you can take a paperwork day and then just hit it hard and go through and do all this filing stuff. You can't sit around and worry about this stuff all the time. So that is something I wanted to talk about. And I think no matter how much I say it, it needs to be said more than anything, because I love all you guys, but all of you are probably focusing too much on the things that don't make you money and not enough on the things that make you, if you're focusing too much on those things, and I'm not saying they're not important, but and if they're really important, make enough money to hire somebody to do some of them. And another thing too, if you guys are, how many of you think that you're good at selling Medicare and helping Medicare beneficiaries, or good at selling PNC, or good at selling life, or what? You're good at selling insurance, right? If you're good at that, shouldn't you be focusing most of your time on that right now? How many of you think you're really good at filing Secretary of State websites and doing AHIP certifications and stuff? Paul's very good at that. But you need to try your best to get to a point where you can hire out some of these inefficiencies and get some of this stuff to be done in the background while you're spending time, really treading and making a path out there. So, Dennis, so it is being recorded. It will be in the Medicare Monsters group later on, and we're trying to put the recordings in our Lightspeed system as well. So any questions that anybody have right now, or anything specifically that they want to talk about? I think this is just something that I wanted to talk about this morning, because no matter how much people want to talk about CRMs and advertising and all these different things, they don't want to talk about picking up the phone and talking to people. I know people that are worried about fresh leads, that, like, even in my own office, where can I get more leads? I got people writing, guys in the LOAs that are writing 20 applications a week, sitting there talking about, I got to get more leads. Bro, 20 applications a week is pretty good. And then I got guys that have pipelines full of telemarketed and direct mail leads, but they're looking for something else. They're looking for they're trying to create this other thing where they just answer a call and change their Medicare supplement. One of the biggest mistakes I've made in training new agents is bring in a new agent in the LOA side, and we'll say, hey, we'll get you learning how to go through the applications and everything by servicing our book, calling people and helping rewrite them or cross sell them, that kind of stuff. It creates a really weak spirit, because those people all want to talk to them. They're all easy to talk to. People need to cut their teeth learning how to talk to the people that are hard to talk to. I had this thought process that, hey, if I let them work on some easy leads first, or not even leads, clients, they can figure out what the conversation goes like, and they can get through the application. And that way, when they're talking to the hard leads and they finally find one that'll talk to them, they won't not know how to do e-applications, right? And there's some truth to that. But we're really having to, tell them, like, this is not how sales calls goes when you're really working lead flow. And, we get these guys, and my LOAs are, I love them to death. They have no idea how easy it is when they're just picking up the phones. They don't know we're spending $60,000 a month to make those phones ring, and they're just picking them up and writing applications all day. And it's great and it's beautiful, and I need them to do that, but it's not the same thing as when you're going out and grinding. And so also, I think it's important, if you see me saying, hey, our office averaged 15 applications in the off season a week per agent, right? It's not necessarily that somebody has to stack themselves up to that, because you also have to understand that there's a significant cost to those applications, and that LOA agent is making less per application. So if you have a street level agent, they might be making 4 to 5 times per application they write. So if you write a fourth or a fifth of the applications that they write, you're making the same amount of money. Now, why is that? Oh, we're paying them less. Well, they just pick up the phone and people walk in and say, sign me up for plan G. Like they're not going to get street level commissions for that. It's a different system, you know. It costs too much to make it happen, you know, on the forefront. So yeah, so like you said, Mark, got to know how to hunt and gather, not just gather. So basically in our agency system, what we've created is we're hunting, and then we just pay the yellow agents to gather it up, right? You know, we're just like you know, lining them up like zombies, and they just have to shoot them down. So you know, that's pretty morbid, you know, way to say it, because they're elderly people and we're not shooting them, but we are bringing them in the door and they are helping them. We line them up, get them interested in wanting help, and they help them, right? And also, you know, just while I'm on some of these topics, when you are looking at you know, when you're looking at sales and you're out in the field, and you're some of you that are newer and maybe, you know, really need to make sales just to be able to pay your bottom line, I just want you guys to really make sure that you're playing the long game and helping people. Don't just go out and try to get something in your name, because when you do that, it's really bad for our entire industry and the entire sales industry. It's bad for insurance, it's bad for Medicare, it's bad for sales in general. And I really want you guys to think about leaving people better than you found them, and creating a real business around helping people, and not being transactional is super important. Because, you know, it's selfish for me, because, you know, I hope my kids are in the business one day. You know, I think all my friends will be in it. I plan on being in the sales world for years and years to come, decades to come. And I want to make sure that legacy is a good legacy, and we have to start changing it. Roger Short's been talking about this a lot lately, and I think it's very important that we change this messaging of like, got to get more and more applications. That's great. Like, we like to do that too, but we want to do it in a way that leaves people better than we found them. Victoria says, thoughts on turning a downline agent that is independent to LOA. They struggle with prospecting and leads, but great at closing. Well, I mean, that sounds like the answer to your question right there. If you can prospect for them and get them leads, then that's great. What I tell people all the time about LOAs is, if you have something to offer them in the form of lead flow, you know, that's like real lead flow, you know, quality lead flow. That's when someone should be LOA. You know, otherwise, what we see is a lot of people signing people up LOA and giving them nothing out in the field. And that's just BS, because if they're assigning commissions to you, then you owe them something to make that opportunity worth that for them. Okay. But a lot of people do struggle with prospecting and lead flow. I mean, it's the biggest struggle is people, how to get in front of people. People say, why do 92% of agents fail? Or why do I think 99% of them fail? They don't know how to get in front of people. They're cheap, so they won't spend money on advertising, and they're shy, but they want to be a salesperson. Really what they want is they want somebody to come in and be like, can you sign me up for this? Sure. That's not sales, you know, and it's very difficult to do that. So the only reason I can even have LOAs sitting there knocking down leads as they come in is because I'm not cheap. I'm the opposite of cheap. We spend way more money than we probably should a lot of times. But in doing that, we have a target rich environment. So Jason says, we're having issues finding people that really want to work. Where is everyone getting quality people? So this is, if you're talking about a downline, if you're talking about like actually in the office, we're finding that word of mouth is helping us now. But like, just give you a breakdown. Jeff, we found on LinkedIn. It was a God's gift to me through LinkedIn. Stephen found me on Facebook. You know, put it out there what you're doing. And I mean, you don't have to be bombastic, but you know, if you go on a nice trip or buy a new car or something and you're self-employed, you can kind of advertise it a little bit. Not advertise, just put a picture. So glad that we're having such a good year. I know a lot of people, you can even be very tasteful about it as you're putting it out there. You know, I know a lot of people are struggling through COVID, and there's a ton of people that have had rough economic turns during all this. I'm blessed, you know, and thank God every day that our industry is strong and that I'm able to provide for my family. You say stuff like that. You buy a new house, you buy a new car, you go on a vacation, and you say something like that that's tasteful. You'd be surprised. You'll have people reach out to you. Now, some people want money and say, I want it real bad. I want this. They want money. They want what you have. Not a lot of people want to work and do it. And so somebody told me this is Dante Cantu, Richard Cantu said, one day I told him, I was like, everything's just going really, really well. And I kind of had this mindset of like something bad is bound to happen at some point. Like something, it's this roller coaster of life. You go to church and like, oh, it's a roller coaster of life. They want to prepare you for ups and downs in a faith-based way, right? And I was talking to him, and he said, Justin, everything's going really well for you. And he said, I'm not saying that something bad can't happen, like somebody gets sick or some kind of anomaly that you can't help, couldn't happen. But everything is going well in business because you're working your ass off for it and doing the right thing, not just accidental, and that resonated with me. And so if you guys are doing something right and things are going well, it's because you're working hard and you're doing the right thing. It's not just accidental. Now, you're still blessed. You still have all your arms and legs, or you have a brain that works, and you're still blessed, and you need to give thanks for that and understand that. But you also need to understand that people that it isn't working out for, sometimes it's because they're not working for it. They're not putting the effort into it. And so like when Jason says he's having trouble finding people that'll work, most people don't work hard. Why do agents fail? It's because they can't get in front of enough people, because they don't want to work hard. They're not working hard, So finding these people that work hard is an art, and it just takes time and numbers. But the cool thing about when you have 3 or 4 people that are working for you, at some point, you start to find their network of people. You're looking for that smart, hungry, humble thing. Anybody that's been in here for a while has heard us talk about Patrick Lencioni says, look for people who are smart, hungry, and humble. Chet Holmes says, look for the person with an ego so hard he's hard to keep in check, right? I started out that way, got me a couple of those guys. They're tenacious, difficult to deal with. The smart, hungry, humble guys are my favorite. The people that if you take them from a 1 or 2 in thought process to a 4 or 5, they're happy, they're sold, they're loyal, they'll stay with you, and you're giving them a great opportunity. You want to look for these people, and they're not for us. I was talking to my wife about starting to go to college fairs because somebody told me the other day, they're like, you're building a fraternal organization, which I don't like fraternal because we like women too. But he said, you're building like a fraternal organization where all these, young guys are wanting to come in there and work, and there's some people that do this, right? And so my wife's like, you should start going to college fairs. And I was like, yeah, but if I go to college fairs, I want to find the freshmen and sophomores and tell them to drop out because I don't really want the college graduates. They want too much. They think, oh, I've graduated college. No, I should be like, I'm not going to sell insurance. That's for people that didn't go to college. That's the thought process. And so I'm like, I want to find the freshmen, but do you really like this shit? Do you like learning about liberal arts and stuff all day? Or do you want to drop out of this crap and go, make some real money helping people and making an impact on the world? So that's and I say that to say, like, when I'm looking for this avatar, this person, you can't think of like, oh, he graduated Sigma cum laude and he's the valedictorian. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, none of that means anything to me. Oh, you worked hard in school. Most of the people that are doing all that in school, they didn't work hard for it. They're really good at school. And I found that people that are really good at school are not really good at sales and running businesses. A lot of times the people that sucked at school are much better at selling and running businesses because they have personality and pizzazz. They have something, they have grit, they're tenacious, something about them. They have a desire, something that's different, right? And so when you're looking for these people, I've found them at factories. I've found them at, Sid was working at AT&T. Jeff was self-employed. He was on LinkedIn. Stephen was selling websites, business to business. So maybe they're in another sales position. So you can't think like, hey, there's this one way to get them. You just kind of got to always be hiring. And when you find somebody that you think is right, go with your gut and hire them. And then if later on you found out you were wrong, you got to do the hard thing and be like, I was wrong. I'm sorry. I plucked you from whatever you were doing, but you probably need to go back to it. This isn't going to work out. That's okay. So a lot of these guys say hire them fast, fire them fast. I do not like firing people, so it's not something I'm gonna say fire them fast. But I don't think they mean like fire people fast. What they're saying is get them in, figure out if they're going to work, and if it's a good thing for them and you. Don't waste their time. Don't waste your time. But you got to take the shot and let them sit there for 30 days and decide. Cody's dad, Brian Askins, told us in the state of Missouri, you have, I can't remember what the law was, like 28 days or something, that if you fire them within that window, there's no unemployment repercussions. So look into your state laws, and then you can tell them, hey, I'm going to hire you at X amount of dollars. It's going to be lower than what I would offer you if you stick. I'm going to put you on a X number of days probationary period and figure out if it's going to work. If it works, great. This could be the best opportunity that's ever come across, your face. If it doesn't, oh, well, you figured out something. You learned a couple things. You're on about it, looking for the next opportunity. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. You could even preface it that way when you're looking for them. Veteran hiring groups. Yeah. So Paul, we have one of the things we want to do in our, we want to have a chair, like a 501(c) aimed at veterans hiring. Now I'll say this, I'm a veteran, so I can get away with saying this, but veterans sometimes are whiny and lazy too. They leave being in the military. I have a lot of friends like this. They leave it, and then all of a sudden they're like, woe is me, I'm depressed. And I'll tell you guys something too, and I probably shouldn't say this, but this is true. There's a lot of veterans that fake PTSD. I know some of them that never went to anywhere claiming this stuff. So that is something that annoys me because I've seen it, and I know guys that really have it, and it takes away from them, but they use it to their detriment. They're claiming disability, all this stuff. So there are some really good veterans, i.e. me, I'm awesome. But there are some that aren't really good. So I don't find the veteran force to be any more target rich in quality people. I just don't. I haven't found that. I think, when you're looking at like World War II veterans, and you're going to, when I go to like I was the adjutant for the American Legion, and you're looking at that group, that's a different group. But some of those young veterans, they have some soul searching to do. And one of the reasons we want to start a 501(c) directed at them is to pull. I want to get them in front of people that it's like, quit being a little baby. There's all these opportunities. You just got to go seize the damn day and quit whining about what you did a few years ago, and let's move on. And that's more me directing it at like the OIF, OEF, Gulf veteran era, not necessarily the Desert Storm veteran era, not necessarily like Vietnam, all that. I mean, that's a whole different one. I can't really resonate with them because I wasn't there. I don't know what that was like. Different era. But the young ones that I was with in Iraq and the Horn of Africa and all that, I find that some of them use that as a crutch almost. So, but it's a good. I do commend hiring veterans, and in some areas there are some tax incentives to do it as well. So, the best agents come from LinkedIn. I do think of all the hiring services out there. Like, I can't remember the names of all of them right now, but monster.com and a lot of these, most of them suck. I think LinkedIn's the most legitimate one. And now there's a lot of fake direct message crap on LinkedIn that's really annoying. Never sort of started giving everybody trophies. Yeah, that stuff happened in the military too, Jim. It's crazy. Got to know how to hunt and gather. Great top today. So you can turn a downline into an LOA. Just make sure you have something to give them, and make sure that you're not just turning them to an LOA because they're not working hard. Great at closing. When you say that, Victoria, there's I'd have to know what you mean. Like, if somebody's a hot prospect, pretty much anybody can close them. So if they're good at closing a cold lead, and you're just funnel them cold leads all day and they're closing them, that's a no-brainer. Make them an LOA. Let's see here. Yes, it said, I'll talk to you separately, Venice, because you had written me on here. Let's see here. Um, so, all right, guys. Well, I would open up the mic to people to talk as well, but Letitia just came in, and I got to go. We got to go talk shop. So, I love you guys. You're awesome, and go out and do some income producing activities. Rock on.